Hello everyone, my name is Amarinder Singh.
And I am Raza.
Today we will be explaining our chat application using socket programming. So let's go over the code. So we decided to do our code in Python. These are all functions on top, and the first line that runs is line 149. All it asks is to provide a port number that you wanted to listen on. It doesn't know that it's listening right now, but we just wanted to provide it just to save it. So, and then it starts through two threads. Threading is basically asynchronous coding where you can run two functions at the same time. So let's go ahead and go to the server thread. Server thread, the host 0.0.0 means that it's listening for any, uh, it's listening to incoming data. And then we have the port number, which we provided right here, and we saved it in this variable. So the next we start a socket. We have IPv4, which is using a TCP connection, and then we bind it together. We bind the host and the port together, and then the socket starts listening. This five means that it can listen up to five uh, sockets at a time, and then it just lets the user know server is listening. So then it right away it goes into this while loop where we start listening for connections. Well, it's listening for connections, then it starts to accept connections, and it's seeking for incoming connections. Then we have another thread here which runs the handle client. So let's go ahead and go into that real quick. And it passes the parameter of client socket while true, and it's listening for data that is coming from other clients. So we have to decode it because we encoded it because when you transfer data over network, it would be only done by bytes. So we have to decode it. First we encoded it and now we have to decode it so we can turn it back into string. And if data is empty, let's say the user disconnected, these things can happen, the client socket will just close out. And this is just information where it's coming from, the sender's port, and then the message itself. So let's go back to the client thread. So now that we have the server running, we have the server listening, we know now the client can input their commands. So we have process commands function, which is right here. So as the user is typing in their command, it does it accordingly. So if they type in list, this command will run, and all these functions are encoded. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to Ali to explain the rest of the code.
Cool. So if you can scroll down to display help functions. This is basically when you put in help, this is what will be displayed. So help will display all of this information. My IP will basically show your IP. My port will show your port. Connect, destination, and then port. So basically, if you want to connect to someone, you will put connect, and then you will put their destination, which is their IP, and then their port number. List will basically show all the IPs you are connected to. Terminate ID. ID is a unique set of numbers we have assigned to each IP and port number. And then send will basically do the same thing, like send a message, and then you put in send ID and then the message. And then exit will close all connections. And then if you move on to the client function. So client function basically establishes a new TCP connection to a specified destination at a specified port. It checks the connection, has the correct number of arguments, then attempts to extract the destination and port. It creates a new client socket, attempts to connect to the specified destination and port, and adds the client socket to the all clients list if the connection is successful. If there is an error during the connection attempt, it prints an error message. And then if we go to the list connections function, pretty simple. It basically lists all the clients you're connected to. It uses enumerate to iterate through all clients and then prints the ID numbers next to them. And then if you go to send message function, this basically is the function we use to send a message. As I mentioned earlier, you put the send and then you will put their ID number and then you will put the message you want to send. And then if you go to the terminate connection function, same thing with this one, you would basically just put terminate and then their ID number, and that will terminate the connection with that user.
Okay, cool. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into a quick demo of the code, how it actually runs. So the one thing I wanted to mention is when we're doing when we're transferring sending messages over different networks, you have to go in your router settings and turn on port forwarding so we can see where the information is actually coming to, so we can basically route the port. the message. And we also have to make sure the firewall is down. So in our case right now, we don't have to do this because we're just using localhost. But if we weren't using localhost, we would have to turn firewall off and turn port forwarding on. Cool, we'll go ahead and exit that out and let's go to the run the code. So we type Python and we type the file name and we just want to enter a port number, just say 8080. We'll open up another terminal, another local host. We'll listen on 8081 and then another one which will be 8082. Cool. So let's say we don't know any commands, we can just type the help command. If we type in any other command, it will not recognize it. It will say to please type help. So if we type my IP, it gives you your IP. If we type my port, it gives you your port that we specified right here. And let's go ahead and get to connecting now. So all we have to do is connect. We have to use a connect command to localhost, the localhost IP and the port number we want to connect to. This IP can be the other users too, but in this case, like I said, we're only using whole localhost. So we have connected to our local host on port 8081. This was the port 8081, and we see a connection is accepted. Accepted. And let's go ahead and connect back, and we see connection accepted. Let's go ahead and connect to 8080 and see that, and then connect back. So now we have these three local hosts connected. So if we type in list, we can see there's two different local hosts that we're trying to message. And if we type list here, we only are connected with port 8080. If we do list here, we're connected to 8080. So if we wanted to send a message, we would have to use a send and the ID number and the message itself. Hi from port 8080. So we've sent it to port 8081. So as you can see, port 8081 receives the message, but port 8082 does not receive it because it's not the right port. And if we were to send the message back, send 0 hi from port 8081, and port 8081 receives it, port 8082 does not receive anything. Cool, and let's go ahead and do terminate. Terminate, and if we terminate the connection, we do list. As you can see, the connection was removed, and we can't send the messages anymore. And the final one is we have done connect, IP help, let's terminate, and exit. That's it, which shuts down all the servers. Well, thank you for watching.